Christian Parenting.
Welcome to the Christian Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Steph Thurling. I'm the Executive Director of Christian Parenting, a mom of 3, and I am so glad that you're here. This is a place where you can bring your real self, no matter what that looks like today, and be given the space, resources, and encouragement you need to set aside perfection and grow into the perfectly imperfect parent God made you to be. Hello and welcome to the Christian Parenting Podcast. I'm so glad that you guys are here today because I'm speaking with Erin Loechner, who is just delightful and so interesting. Erin started her career as an online influencer and is now a homeschool mom of 3, doesn't use social media, and wrote a book called The Opt-Out Family: How to Give Your Kids What Technology Can't. This conversation is so good. I know many of you might be thinking, oh, another conversation about social media and technology, but you really don't want to miss this. Erin and I talk about the realities of technology and how you have to make informed decisions for your own family. I share how my oldest has a phone and we have made some mistakes along the way with it. We talk about the social media algorithm and how tech companies work hard and intentionally to get your kids on their platforms. But Erin shares ways we can work hard and intentionally in our homes to be more interesting than the algorithm. This conversation is not about what you should do or should have done. There is no shame here. It's about encouraging you that you are not alone in the battle against technology, and there are amazing resources for you to opt out for your family. I hope that you enjoy. Hi, Erin. Welcome to the Christian Parenting Podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. We were chatting a little bit before we started recording, and I think this is just going to be a really fun conversation. So thank you for taking time to be here today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, before we get going, because we're going to talk about your book, we're going to get to know more about your history, but first we want to know about your family, because this is Christian parenting. So tell us a little bit about you, and then who you live with, and then can you describe your family in one word or phrase?
Yes, that is so hard to think about. Okay, so I have 3 children. My husband and I homeschool. Their ages are, it's a birthday summer. So let's see, they're going to be 12, 8, and 4. So pretty widespread. I would say the word used to describe us, we're connected. We're a very connected family. I mean, we're together all the time, but it's kind of like whatever one kid is interested or whatever even my husband and I are interested in, we kind of all band together to find a way to sort of work together on it. We're just very focused on how can this project or interest or hobby or whatever kind of envelop the whole crew. So we don't have quite a lot of separate interests. It's sort of a family affair. The kids are in theater. So my husband does projections and I'll help with, actually, I just feed them. I can't even say, I wash their clothes and I feed them. I'm support system. But yeah, they're just all in it together and we're sort of just doing it that way. It's been fun.
Yeah. Tell me what that looks like with a 4-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Right. That's the banner question. Well, honestly, what I've noticed about the 4-year-old, and this kind of makes it a little bit easier, is if you include her in the beginning, she kind of fizzles out she just thinks it's boring. So it'll be like, here, we're going to be doing this today. Or even my husband, if he's working on a projection for the show, then he'll say, do you want to sit next to me and sort of watch how I'm doing this in this program? And she's so bored. She's like, can we just go play puzzle, or can we do something else? Or we go on a trampoline? Or so it looks a little different with that one, but everybody else is pretty engaged for the most part. She does like to memorize all the kids' lines, even though she's not in the show. She likes to help them with their scripts and give plenty of advice. 4-year-olds, right?
Well, she knows everything.
That's right.
Of course.
She's basically the director of the show,
Well, I'm sure people listen to her too, because I'm sure she's darling. But it'll be fun to see her grow and grow into that role a little bit and see how just being involved at a young age shapes her. I think that's really cool. I love that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's always looking at the long term,
Yes. I mean, that's all a parent. It's so easy to look at the short term in parenting. Like, what's going to make my life easiest right now and make our family most successful right now, when really that's not the goal to have our eyes on.
Yes.
But man, that's a reminder for every day.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So my other question is, what is one thing you want every parent to know?
Oh, gracious. I want every parent to know that we are raising our kids in a really unique generation, and we kind of have to reshuffle the deck in a lot of ways. So I want every parent to know not to be afraid to stand out, to look different, not be afraid to guide your family in a different space that is so wildly unique and yours, but doesn't look like anybody else. I truly think that's kind of the only way to do it in the generation we're raising right now, is just get back to what you think is right, get back to where what your roots are, where your roots are, and kind of piece it together from there. And if you can have some other families along for the ride, that's even better, so you're not doing it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that does tie into your story well, because you were doing one thing and now you are doing another thing. Like, you were an influencer, you were in the social media scene, design, all of the things. And then now you're not. You pulled back and you homeschool your three kids. So tell us a little bit about your story. Like, how did you get from there to here? Like, what change did he make in your life and why?
Yeah, so I started writing online 20 years ago. So I just sort of hit the beginning of the .com bust or boost and then bust. And my husband and I lived in Los Angeles. He worked in Apple. So we are very familiar with technology, with the algorithm, with Silicon Valley, all of it, speak the same language. And I really just fell into influencing. I mean, before social media existed, I was HGTV.com's influencer. We had a renovation show. We filmed the inside and outside of our house. I mean, we did not lead or live a private life by any stretch. And so we are in a total polar opposite zone. And part of what happened was I recognized in this, what we're talking about, long-term thinking, is where is this road going to end? Where does this lead? If my job is so very encompassed and just ingrained in technology and in the algorithm that we have to keep up with, right? If you're influencing, you have to know sort of all the tips, tricks, tools, strategies to keep up with it. Well, that requires so much time, not only on my phone, but off my phone, just brain space, thinking about it, the mental load and all of that. And so after I had children, I thought, gosh, if if I'm doing this job, I am going to have my phone in hand more than if I wasn't. So is there a way that I can recreate this now so that by the time they're older, which is now, and it worked, um, my kids won't even see this phone as part of an appendage, right? I could do a flip phone. I can do no device. I can get really creative, do a hybrid of all of it. And that was my goal. My goal was really, how do I transition my work and my mission and my movement fully offline so that it doesn't hinge on keeping up with the algorithm at all? And as a result, my husband and I came up with a family motto that was, be more engaging than the algorithm. And it was simply the idea that our kids are going to want phones because everybody else wants phones. How are we going to not just say no to devices, but say yes to something better? How are we going to make our home and our family so connected and so engaged that they're not going to want to sneak away to TikTok in the laundry room? That was our goal. It wasn't necessarily running away from technology, but really running towards something even better. And that was engagement.
Yeah. So I want to get to the social media algorithm because I feel like, man, that's something we all think about and have questions about, and we know it's around. But first, I want to get to a little bit of the basics before we go into the algorithm. So your book is called The Opt-Out Family: How to Give Your Kids What Technology Can't, which is exactly what you were just saying, just to be engaging with them instead of engaging with technology. So really, like, tell us what an opt-out family means to you and how can we get there?
Yeah, of course. It looks differently for everybody. A big marker of an opt-out family, I believe, is every time you have the choice to introduce more technology into your home, or more technology into your rhythm, or more technology with your kids, you stop and you pause and you assess, where does this end, right? What you kind
Mm.
of, I learned this from a Silicon Valley venture capitalist. They call it second order thinking. But first order thinking is, when is my kid ready for a phone, right? That's what everybody wants to know. Second order thinking is, okay, if they are ready, what happens next? Am I ready for a phone? Am I ready to content moderate the phone? Am I ready to set boundaries around the phone? What happens if the child does this? What happens in this scenario, in this circumstance? And it's really kind of working through all those pieces in your head before you even say yes, before you even
Mm.
make that decision. And so an opt-out family just really pauses and reassesses. I say in the book, um, Facebook, Meta, their whole motto, Zuckerberg's motto is move fast and break things. An opt out family moves slow and mends things, right? We try to just kind of take a beat, take a breath, look around and ask yourself, do I like where this leads? If technology is the future, is this a future that I want? And then you answer for your family.
Yeah. I like that you're very open that every family looks different too. Like our 12-year-old has a phone. And I have said on this podcast before, like, we didn't do a good job giving him the phone in that, like, I monitor it very carefully. But I kind of just like was like, okay, well, you need a phone for when you get dropped off at baseball. There you can have a phone. Like, we didn't really think of the what comes next. Like, are we ready for this? Are we ready to explain it to them? Are we ready to slow down and tell him why you're not going to get all these apps on your phone? Or no, like, you can't be on your phone all the time. This is why you give it to me when you walk in the door. We didn't take the time to do it slowly. And now we're kind of backtracking a little bit because we have to now. Like, we
Mm.
have to go back and be like, okay, wait, no, no, no. This is why we have this rule. Sorry, we didn't explain it to you. We weren't ready. We just didn't know. We
Yes, and
just didn't
it's
do it
so
right.
hard with that first, and right now especially because kids are getting phones for that reason, and you want them to have a rich and vibrant social circle. And so, I mean, personally, our we just started really young by telling our kids the whole way through, hey, you're not going to have a smartphone in my house. Sorry about it. When they're 5, they don't care. But then we will have a flip phone in the car when you need to call home or whatever, when you start driving. And then when you turn 18, it'll be your choice. When you can afford your own phone, you can buy your own phone. You can buy the plan. If you want a smartphone, who are we to say no? But the hope is we will have modeled by then that you can live a life without a smartphone if you want to. And that'll be
Mm,
your decision. And I just want them to know they have options. I want every family to know um, you can opt out if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want to, it's possible. People do it, and
yeah.
and they're not, living under a rock necessarily. Maybe sometimes.
Maybe sometimes. So you can, what you're saying is you can opt out a little bit. Like, this is, you're not saying like this is all or nothing. Like, we are getting rid of all of it.
No, 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 no. I mean, gosh, we have the 1983 Nintendo console, like the
Oh,
old
yeah.
Super Mario 3, and
Which is the most fun Nintendo.
it is the most fun Nintendo. I agree with you. And so, and for Christmas, my son, who's 7 and loves Mario, anything, he got a full day in his pajamas, snacks galore, just binge on the Nintendo. That's fine, whatever. And so it's not even screen free. It's not even, I mean, I do think our house is fairly screen free. It's not part of our daily rhythm, but to me, that I would rather, sit on the sofa and watch a TV show than kind of having the dual scrolling happening or each in our own corners. It's sharing a screen is probably better than individual screens anyway. So yeah, we're not all or nothing about it. Our kids have an iPad plugged into their the downstairs piano because and it only works with one app. It's a piano playing app. It doesn't have internet. It's too old. Um, but my kids all wanted to learn piano and I didn't know how to play piano. So we had this app from 10 years ago. And that's how my husband learned to play piano. And so we thought, okay, well, we can do this. So we just turned it into a single use iPad, which is always a great thing to do if you have already given your kid a device and you want to sort of pare back. Make it single use, figure out what do you use this for? How do you engage with it? And then find a way to incorporate that part. So it's funny because our 4-year-old, so the iPad doesn't leave the piano bench. It's just kind of right there plugged in. Nobody really carries it around because why would you? You don't play piano. Like it's connected to the piano. But it's funny because my 4-year-old will go out to a restaurant and see other kids, and she assumes they're practicing scales. She thinks they're on the piano, and it's like a portable piano player. She just has no idea. So just finding ways to incorporate in a way that makes sense for your family, and very, very, very slowly, because it's much easier to take the slow road than to kind of go all in and have to pull back and, setting those boundaries and resetting them. And it's a lot. It's a lot. It's
Yeah.
easier to manage if you just say no from the get-go than if you say yes, but oh, then there's all this.
Yes. I mean, we are learning that firsthand right now. So our number 2 and 3 there, it will look different for them because we've learned, as you do with those firstborn kids.
That's right.
It's like, sorry, guys.
I know, the poor force burn. I know.
But I also think it's so cool, like, to view technology within limits, right? To like recognize, like, what a gift to have an iPad where you can, like, your husband learned to play piano from technology, and now your kids can. Like, how cool is that? So there's nothing like
Absolutely.
evil about technology in itself. It's just how
No.
we use it and how, the masterminds use things like the algorithm.
Exactly. And I think there's such a difference between technology itself, meaning the progression and the enhancements, and the anything that has an algorithm attached to it. I mean, that's kind of my line for my kids is, um, I need there to be a start and a stop. I need to make sure that we're
Mm.
using it intentionally, and it's not just kind of auto playing in the background or something that, because I would go as far as to say that I do think the algorithm, I think we give it a ton of credit. It is not a good place for anybody to, it's not, because it's not going to meet your goals. It's meeting the goals of the tech bros and hoodies. So automatically it's not serving you or supporting you as a person. So that to me is I put it in a different category altogether. I don't even like shopping Amazon because it tells me what it thinks I should buy, and that bothers me. So, but I have before.
Sure
So
does.
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just talking last night with my husband and my dad because they were talking about some golf clothes. And my dad was saying, "Oh, have you heard of this brand of golf clothing?" And my husband was like, "Well, now it's going to show up on my phone." We're like, how many days until I start getting advertisements for this thing we talked about in your kitchen?
That's right.
Okay, guys, I know we all have a vision of a perfect morning quiet time with a cozy chair, a hot cup of coffee, a scented candle, and uninterrupted silence. But the reality is, there are seasons of life that are more difficult than others to sit down and read the Bible in that way, especially certain stages of parenting. There are seasons of really early mornings with lots of interruptions and hands-on needs, and other seasons of more early mornings and a lot of driving. Maybe you're in a season like that right now. I have been there, and I'm there now too. And I have found that the Dwell app is a great solution. With the Dwell app, you can listen to the Bible and customize your experience. You can choose your scripture, your narrator, and they all have amazing and soothing voices. You can choose your background music, and you can even choose the speed of the audio. There's also Dwell Daily, which is devotional that includes listening to the word, praying on it, meditating on it, and so much more. It's a great way to deepen your relationship with Scripture and with the Lord. And right now we have a special discount code just for listeners of the Christian Parenting Podcast. You can go to dwellbible.com/CPP to receive your 25% discount today. Again, that's dwellbible.com/CPP for 25% off. A few months ago, my sister told me she started taking Happy Mammoth products and absolutely loved them. So naturally, I had to try them too. I ordered Hormone Harmony, which is an all-in-one hormonal balancing solution for women of all ages. The adaptogens used in Hormone Harmony help the body to adapt to stressors like chaotic hormonal changes that happen naturally throughout a woman's life. I love that Happy Mammoth is dedicated to making women's lives easier. They use science-backed ingredients that have been proven to work for women. They make no compromise when it comes to quality, and it shows. Hormone Harmony has over 17,000 online reviews from women who are feeling more like themselves. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code CPPodcast at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code CPPodcast for 15% off today. Okay, so let's talk about it. We kind of know a little bit about what the algorithm is, but give us a little bit of an explanation, what it is, how it works, and kind of your feelings about it.
Yeah. A programmer I spoke with in this book, I did so much research. It was so fascinating. I learned so much. But a programmer that I spoke with had the best sort of definition of the algorithm. And it's just a series of recipes to lead you to create something that you want to create. So if you are baking a cake, right, it just has the ingredients and the recipe and kind of the plan and the roadmap for where you're going with it. But the problem is the recipe, the final result, the cake, is what the app needs you to do, not what you want to do. So that's where we run into the problem, because what is good for the app is not good for the user. And the bottom line is more time, more attention, more money, more intimacy. That's what the app or the platform needs from you. And those are the things that your real life needs from you. Those are the things your family needs from you. And so they're really very, very much at odds, which is why I can't balance social media and a real life, because they're dueling. It's a battle, and I can't do both. The social media algorithm is a hard no, but there are algorithms based into everything. They're in shopping sites. They're everywhere we are using. Well, so in the book, I have broken down a lot of those secret behind the curtain strategies that the algorithm uses, some very small, some very big, and then created an alternative that you can do the same thing in your home, or you can do the opposite thing in your home, depending on whether you think it's nourishing or supporting or not. And it's everything from, one of the things that TikTok does is they use biometrics. So they use your voice print, your face print to determine, where you're looking on the screen at something. What part of this TikTok is engaging you? Where are your eyes lighting up? What kind of reaction are you having? It's wild. It really is. But the technology,
I hate everything about that.
I know. And the technology's there. It
Wow.
is baked into that app and into that platform, and it can be utilized. And so how do we as parents do that? Well, biometrics, it's eye contact. It's all very simple. So if we want to recreate, like, how people give little reads and little suggestions all day long, but we miss them because we're not looking at our kids in the eye. They're telling us, they're giving us so much information. They're telling us what sparks delight and what they want more of and what they're interested in. But we have a hard time not multitasking that out of them. And so even simple things as when your kid comes into the room, look at them in the eyes, put your, kitchen knife down if you're chopping vegetables, ask them how they're doing, ask them what's new. That's biometrics, right? That's looking into their eyes. If they're really young, have a staring contest with them, because that eye contact is so important for your neurons. It just helps them fire away. It helps you feel connected. And it's addictive. And so a lot of just really little things, really big things that you can incorporate. TikTok has, one of the things they do really well is there's no starting queue. So there is no, when you log onto the platform, you're automatically met with videos that are coming on that are created for you, that the algorithm believes you want to see. So there really isn't any friction to keep you from not pushing play on that video. You just it's just a habit. You just pop into the platform and it's already playing. And one of the teens I spoke with said, it's like there's a party that's already going on at all times, and I don't want to miss it. So I'm constantly checking to see what's new. So how do we do that in our house? I don't think we can turn our house into a carnival, but I do think there are elements that I go through pretty specifically in the book, about making your home feel like there is something they will miss when they're not there. Maybe it's you keep a fire going all winter long and it's just warm and engaging and something to look at. Maybe it's kind of the same reason that when you start baking cookies in the kitchen, your kids all flock and they come running, right? They're like, what's going on? What's happening? Who's coming over? It's that same concept. They just want to feel like there's something happening inside their house that they don't want to pull away from. And that's engagement, that's connection. And we can do that as parents.
Yeah, it just takes some intentionality. But some of those things you're saying, obviously, some of them require more than others. But eye contact with your kids is really simple. You just have to be intentional. But my goodness, there have been so many days in my parenting that I go to bed and I'm like, I really don't feel like I even looked at my kids today. Like maybe I looked at them, but I didn't really look at them.
Mm.
Like, it takes intention.
It really does. It really, and it's habit forming. So I will say, like,
Yeah,
if you start, and one of the best ways to do is just pay attention to your hands. If your hands are doing something else, like chopping vegetables or whatever, your eyes are paying attention to that. They're following that. So if you just put your
they should
hands,
be
that's true. I
for
know. I
vegetable
know.
chopping.
That's right. So if you can just pay attention to what your hands are doing and be there and just redirect your focus and stop moving
Mm.
so much and stop multitasking so much, then we can get there really quickly.
Yeah. Oh, that's good because we are always moving. I am such a multitasker,
Mm.
especially because I went back to work full time like a year and a half ago. And so I feel like I'm just starting to learn now some of the balance that I need to not be multitasking from when my kids get home from school to 5 o'clock when I'm done with work. Like I got to
Yeah.
figure it out. But it's hard because it's really easy to multitask. I'm like, I'm doing both things, but really I'm not doing either well.
Right. That's the heart of it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the, I guess you would say almost like reasons why people want to give their kids technology. Some of the arguments for technology, like it's, you kind of mentioned it before, like it's their social time, like all their friends group chat and text. And if we don't let them, then they're going to be excluded. Or you can track your kids and communicate with them if they have a phone, or it's really locked up, so it's safe, so it's fine. Like, what are your like realistic thoughts about some of those concerns and arguments that every parent really has?
Totally. And to be honest, I didn't know the answer to those questions when I set out to write the book. And that's why, so I have a whole
Mm.
chapter dedicated to this topic. Why are we getting our kids a phone? So 71% of polled parents will say that smartphones do more harm than good. And yet we're still giving them to our kids. So there's got to be a good reason. If it were all bad, we wouldn't be giving it to our kids. There's got to be benefits baked into it. And there are, there really are. And so in the beginning of the book, I actually go through, it's the ad agency that Apple uses when they market all of their products. It's called TD Bobby Chiat Day, but it's where my husband worked. They go through a process called disruption, where they take all of those reasons why people are brand loyal or why they form a habit or why they have a certain lifestyle, and they start to kind of like poke some holes in it a little, like, okay, well, is this true? Is this just conventional thinking? And how do we disrupt it? And so I go through that whole process in the book with every argument that I think holds water. And I just kind of argue against it. And one of the big ones is, if we don't teach our kids how to use technology responsibly, including social media, then when they go off on their own, then they'll go crazy, right? They'll just have access to it 24/7. They won't know how to set a boundary. They'll just kind of binge on the whole thing, and it will be our fault, right? Because we didn't introduce it. Or if we say no, 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 and we villainize it, then they'll recognize, well, it's not all bad. I can do this with it and this with it. And I think of that whole argument like almost like food, right? If we're giving our kids nourishment and whole foods and real foods, and then maybe they have a weekend where they're at a birthday party or they're out of town or we're on vacation and the whole family's just eating junk food. This just happened to my daughter and I. We went on a road trip and just ate whatever we wanted to. It was fantastic. And we got home and we were like, we feel sick. We feel miserable. We feel terrible. This is not, we can't eat fried food for 4 days and be okay with it. And so so instantly it was like we just reset because we felt so terrible. And that if we teach our kids to look for the good and to love the good and to train for the good, I don't think that argument holds water when it's like, oh, well, you're just going to then sit. You're not going to feel good if you're sitting on the phone scrolling for 8 hours doing nothing with your life. If if you are trained and encouraged and challenged along the way to contribute to society, to be creative rather than consumers, if you have these kind of pillars, a lot of them in the book that are at odds with technology, then you're actually probably not going to fall in love with it the way that we think as parents that you
Mm-hmm.
will, you know? So there
Yeah.
are many arguments like that. We talk about trust and safety. We talk about tracking apps. We talk about teaching your kids responsibility. All of those things and all of those reasons that we think a smartphone is a good idea. And then I just kind of pose the question, well, what if it's not? And then we go from there. So I wouldn't ever tell anybody what works for their family, but all of those arguments are in there. And I think there's some pretty
Yeah.
compelling reasons to consider the other side.
Well, what I found so interesting while reading through your book is I just kept thinking, like, pretty much every chapter, I kept thinking, like, these tech companies are working so hard to get our kids.
Mm.
They're working so hard. And like what like we have to work harder as parents and we have to be informed to do that. And it's hard because there's so much information out there and there's kind of a lot of guilt and shame connected to this topic, I think. I think some people feel like, "Oh, like I feel like I already gave my son a phone, so now what? Like did I mess up? Is it too late now? Do I just like throw in the towel and be like, "Well, I'll try it with the next kid." Like there's some guilt and shame or like I scroll too much. Like how do I tell my kids not to scroll? So I appreciate your like encouragement and the fact that you're just factual about everything, but encouraging and realistic, knowing that like families have to do what's going to work for them, but
Mm.
there's always a better way. There's just
Yeah.
always a better way.
And the resources are there. I think when I considered families that already gave their kid a phone, I never
Mhm.
ever want ever anybody to feel like it's too late or we can't change or we can't move in a different direction if it's not working. And so a lot of times, a lot of the parents that I talk to, I just ask them, let's make this not a guilt or shame thing. Let's just pretend that the phone is a dog, right? So if you would have gotten your child a dog at 11 or whatever because she wanted a pet and she was responsible enough and wanted to prove to you that she could do it, but the dog wasn't working out, maybe it kept her up all night. Maybe it was impossible to walk and always running in a different direction, leading her down paths she didn't want to go. Maybe it was distracting her. Maybe it kept her from a friend who couldn't come over because she was allergic. All of these things phones do. They contribute to loneliness or lack of focus and distraction and all of these things. So it's really not that far off of a metaphor. But I just ask a parent, like, what would you do then with the dog? So do the same thing with the phone. If you would rehome the dog, you can rehome the phone. If you would take ownership over the dog and just have your daughter care for it every now and then you can do that. If you would just let them kind of figure it out, you can also do that. I think there are millions
Mhm.
of paths. And I would encourage, well, and toward the end of the book, we talk a little about this, but um, tech platforms have to do the same thing. You know, there is content online that they have to moderate severely, that they have millions of hours spent dedicating to taking content offline. And I have laid out what that process looks like for the tech companies. And we can do that as parents as well. We can have things like two-step verification where we're kind of offering our kids a safe mentor to talk to about what they're seeing online if it's not us as parents. Um, we can go through kind of the trust and safety guidelines that Meta goes through and have suggestion boxes and comment boxes and things about keeping these lines of communication open so that your child isn't going through this alone. It is a lot for them to
Mhm.
manage. And I always think as hard as it is for us as parents, it's so much harder for our kids. So if we
Yeah.
can go through it with them, even better. And it's never too late. If something isn't working, it's never too late to reassess and just to pause and ask yourself where you want to go from there.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good encouragement because I just feel like yes, the tech companies are coming after our kids, but the enemy is coming after our kids too. And he comes after parents too with those feelings of guilt and shame and it's too late and I failed and I just love your encouragement that no you didn't.
You
No
didn't.
you didn't. Like we can always there's grace every morning and every day. And we can always ask, what comes next, and how do we opt out a little bit for our family to take a baby step towards something better for us. And I really love that. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Can you tell us how we can get a copy of your book and how we can connect with you and learn more?
Of course. Well, I'm not on social media, of course.
Mm-hmm. Don't tell us your Instagram handle.
I know. But we do have a website where resources are being updated all the time. It's optoutfamily.com. And the book is available as of June 11th, 2024. It's anywhere books are sold. You can get it through the website, anywhere else. But there are so many great resources. There's scripts that you can use to talk to other parents who you might want to form an opt-out circle with. There are ways to talk to parents, teachers, coaches, if you want to kind of see how it would feel to do a device-free practice or a device-free rehearsal or anything like that. Phone-free schools, and whatever your mission is, however you want to get involved, or whatever kind of that tricky tension point is for you and your kid, there's a resource for it. So, and if there's not, we'll make one. We'll help you. So just, I would encourage you to go to that site and just look around.
Yeah, we'll put that in show notes. People can find it because, I love a script.
Me too.
It just makes it so easy. If there's something that you're struggling with, there's a script for that. And so you don't have to think about it.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate your wisdom and your encouragement. And you were just delightful. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Steph. It was so great to chat with you.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me. I hope you love this conversation with Erin and feel like you have some really practical ways that you can opt out little by little to make a big impact on your family. I'm so grateful that you took the time to listen. I would love to hear your thoughts and your feedback. So leave a review or reach out on the Christian Parenting website, christianparenting.org. I hope you have a wonderful week. May God bless you and your family. May you remember that God's mercies are new every morning. His grace covers it all, and it is never too late to start over. God's grace is for you, and it's for your kids, and you are loved beyond measure. Thank you so much for listening to the Christian Parenting Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you love this podcast, would you please consider leaving a review and sharing it with a friend? This is the best way to reach more people and encourage even more parents. Christian Parenting is a donor-funded ministry, and we rely on friends like you to keep podcasts like this going. So to find out more about Christian parenting and to make a donation, head over to christianparenting.org or at christianparenting_org on Instagram. Thank you again. See you next week.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.